Has anyone ever asked you, how do you meditate? And you think to yourself, I can't or I don't because I think too much. My mind is too busy. Well, this is the show for you. Welcome to How Do You Meditate, formerly called The Pollen Show. I am your host, Tyler Gravely, an awareness specialist and lover of all things woo-woo and lover of seeking the truth. I'm so grateful that you are here. This podcast is all about making meditation easy for ordinary people like you and me so that we can live an extraordinary life. There's something about embracing this extraordinary philosophy of seeking the ordinary and the simple that will change your life. You can expect to hear stories on how other ordinary people like you and me find meditation each and every day. You will hear something in each of these episodes that helps spark the light in you to shift and take control over your own mind, to make you think, to laugh, to cry, and to transform the space within so that you can answer the question when asked, how do you meditate? Let's dive in. Hi everyone, welcome back to How Do You Meditate, formerly The Pollen Show. It's so good to be here with you all again. It's February 1st, and we are kicking off a new season, and it is all about you. So with this new episode and this new season that's come along, I've really taken some of the biggest takeaways from the other episodes and kind of started to trend in a certain direction. And as a new meditator, I'm sure you've wondered, how do I start a meditation practice? Or how do I create more peace in my life? Because I'm really craving a lifestyle that caters to that. And perhaps you might have even wondered, like, how do I get my mindset into a certain place where I can fully grow into who it is that I want to be? And as you're going through this process, you're going to need a certain set of skills in order to change who you are. Now, fundamentally, of course, like at the core of who we are is this amazing human being, and we've been this way since we're babies. But there's also this incredible skill set that you can take on, and you can think about it this way. If you ever admired somebody and you start to look at their habits, like what do they do every day and how do they get there? Because really successful people usually don't drink. They usually get up really early to work out. They have books by their bed. They're constantly reading, and they don't spend a lot of time on social media. And if you're looking for maybe a meditation practice to soothe something in your life, real life people like you and me don't sit around and meditate all day. That would just be highly impossible. We more or less, how do we incorporate into a very, very, very busy day and a busy routine? And what is the best time of day to do that? And how would I do it? And most of all, having some really inspiring and uplifting conversations, I've noticed for myself has changed who I am and who I want to be in the world. And by meeting certain like-minded people and like-minded individuals, I find myself striving for more and getting out of this old programming that I wasn't good enough, or that I don't deserve that, or that I, shouldn't be accepting this joy that's in my life. It's kind of interesting how a lot of that plays into your success and your mindset of who you are. And I was just talking with Michonne, who's going to be on the podcast coming up this season, about habits and creating new habits in your life. Really such an emphasis of what the environment looks like that you're currently in. Now, I just got back from a trip with one of my best friends and her two kiddos, and she's totally in that mom life. And I was asking her on the way back to the airport, like, how do you meditate? Because from the time that you were free, that baby was with you and he's always wanting you. And then when he takes a nap, it's like, oh, can I clean? Like, what can I do for just this amount of time? And new moms can totally understand. It's a wild, wild ride. And how do you find time to meditate and all of that? And she said, well, I meditate when I'm walking. If I have just him and not the 6-year-old, and I can get strolling along, I will listen to a podcast and I will meditate. And I'm like, oh, that's so nice. And she's like, yeah, it's so nice when I get that opportunity. So in this episode, I want you to know that it is kicking off. Like, we have Michael Lahoud here today, and it is kicking off the entire season of this show. And he is a major league soccer player from 2006 to 2019. Currently, he's a coach for Trinity University here in San Antonio, Texas, and he's on a mission to spread the knowledge of how to achieve overall wellness in your life, including how mindset plays a role in overall success. So if you're one of those people that obtains all the goals, achieves all the milestones, has to know what's next on the list, and then you ask yourself, is this what I really want to be up to? This episode is for you. You're going to want to listen in on this episode all the way to the end and take notes. And I promise you, you will gain so much wisdom into the heart of someone who truly loves what they do and find success in their true passion for the love of it, not for the accolades or the fame. And it's taken him so far. So you can connect with us on Instagram at How Do You Meditate, or the Facebook group. We have a Facebook group if you want to join that, where there's Monday night meditations. And we are avid seekers of the peace and the meditation in a real, ordinary way, and knowing that 10 minutes a day could change your life, and it will change your life if you choose so. Without further ado, here is Michael. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here. I'm so grateful that you are coming on to the Pollen Show today, and it's just an honor to have you. And we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and meditation and all the things. But first, I'd love to know a little bit about you and where you're from and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. So thanks for having me, first and foremost. And my story originally starts in West Africa, in a country called Sierra Leone. I was born in Freetown, or just outside Freetown, which is the capital. And if you ever seen the movie Lord of the Rings, I'm a huge sci-fi and fantasy buff, but I can compare it to the Shire. It's this peaceful place. The grass shines a little greener. The sun's always out, and it's life at peace. And just some of the most memorable moments in my life took place there early on until I was 6 years old. And growing up was very protected and didn't know what was going on, and then found out that there was a civil war. And it was taking place right in my backyard, and my family did everything they could to protect me. And in 1993, I got an emergency visa to leave Sierra Leone and move to the United States, effective immediately. So I got the visa the same day. I was in school, and my grandma came in to school and grabbed my arm and yanked me out of class in the middle of class. And I was on a flight that night to move to America. So kind of, the typical things you hear of a childhood, and some unique things and different things. So I experienced trauma at a very early age, and it brought me here to the United States. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area for most of my childhood, and a lot of transition, a lot of getting acclimated and assimilating to life in America. And one of the biggest things that was a constant for me was soccer. And so soccer saved my life when I moved here from Africa. And it took me all around the world and brought me here to San Antonio, Texas, where I am now a retired professional athlete and a broadcaster.
Well, I'm so grateful that we met and that you're here in San Antonio. And it's just an honor to get to know you more and more. We just started talking about mindfulness and meditation and what that really meant as an athlete, and how you get into that flow, into that space where you're completely focused on, it sounds very driven. When you speak about your childhood and getting through that, I can only imagine, like, you kind of, in a way, it was a gift to throw yourself into something like this, like a sport.
It really was. It was almost survival instinct. Mm-hmm. I knew that if I didn't throw myself into something, at an early age, I would feel the onset of certain traumatic experiences or memories, and I would dive deeper into sports, especially soccer. And soccer was the one thing that never asked any questions. Sports never asks questions. It validate. It's a give get. If you perform, you get validated.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me friends. It gave me meaning. It gave me a lot of things every young child and every young person looks for. Who am I? Who do I belong to? Where do I belong? And do I have what it takes? And soccer answered so many of those questions, if not all of those questions, early on and throughout my life.
I love how you just said, if you perform, you get validated. Speaks so much to a behavior, almost like you did a behavior, you did a certain skill, and you got validated for it. How many hours would you say that you were dedicating to your craft as a child and then as an adult? Like, when did someone say, man, you really have something here? Like, I want to bring you on to this.
Early on, when I first moved to America, I think when I just turned 7, my first soccer coach, Jeff Wolf, he was the first person to see something in me that was different. But he never said it outwardly, like, you're really good at this. He just said, I want you to love this game. Like, you seem to really love this game. And it took the pressure off, where it set this concept in motion of, I play soccer because I love this game. It was never about, I play because I want to be a professional athlete. I play because I want to go to college. It was, I play because I love this game. And it was my why. Why did I show up? Why did I put the hours in? And with respect to the hours, man, I couldn't tell you the actual hours per week or per day. What I could tell you was every day after school, the first thing I would do was listen to my mom say, do your homework, and have it go out the other ear and go play soccer. Every day of the summer, if I wasn't at the pool, I was playing soccer. I was consumed by soccer, and I just had this appetite for just being so passionate about the game. I just wanted to know all the ins and outs. And I was inspired by so many of the world's stars growing up, and I still am today.
Oh my gosh. When I hear you speak about it, it parallels so much to business in my eyes, because I speak to so many people who are starting their own business, right? And they're like, I want to be the best. I want to be the most successful. And they almost forget like the love of it. Like, I just
Yeah.
love meditation so much. So I'm just going to practice and share it with other people. Right.
Mm.
And it can be so easy in that sense. You've already experienced it in a way of like, I just loved it. I just did what I loved, and that's what I do. And so it speaks, and it parallels so well to business. Like, if you just do what you love and you just show up for it every day, and if you really truly love it, things will come. And that's so
Yeah.
much to meditation, right? There's no goal in meditation in a sense. Like, I don't know where we would go, like what would happen. So I think that's what makes it a little tricky sometimes.
Well, it's so interesting. So meditation has been something that almost haunted me throughout my life,
Yeah.
and career in particular. Everywhere I would go, every team I'd play for, I'd come across someone who would bring it up. I think you should really meditate. And I would dip a toe in it, and I was never in a space to do it at the time, because I had the expectation of a certain outcome, that if I was to meditate and do it, I had to do it. I had to be the best meditator, or whatever the right word is. I had to be the best version. I had to be levitating off the ground. And that held me back so much from being willing to engage in it, because I was so driven by sports, and sports is performance. You're judged by how well you perform. And I always had this feeling that there was going to be so many doors, and my mind would be open, and I'd be open to so many different practices and so many different things once I stopped playing soccer. And I love the word practice, because as an athlete or former athlete, that is something that resonates with me very much, is practice is where you hone your craft. It's where you hone your skill. It is the most important thing you will do for anything, whether it's sports, whether it's meditating, or whether it's business. It's what you do when no one is looking on the day to day that will set you up for the longevity of what you're about to do. And I find that in being very new to meditation is the consistency of showing up and engaging in the practice, whatever it is.
I know this conversation is so good, but we need to take a break for our beautiful sponsor, The Plantful Pantry. They believe that when you transform your pantry, you transform your life. I always wanted to learn how to make plant-based foods that tasted really, really good. And I reached out to Mariah, who is my plant-based guide, and she created tools and information and support and recipes to make eating healthier easy and fun. You can head over to theplantifulpantry.com, and when you sign up with their newsletter, you'll get free recipes sent straight to your email. They also have an Instagram and a Facebook, The Plantiful Pantry Co., where you can get weekly shopping lists, private coaching, goal setting, and so much more. Oh my gosh. It's so true. I remember very way back when I first started, it was like, I was like, I'll just practice for 90 days and then I should have my life together. Like it should be good, like everything should be fine in 90 days. And then I was like, oh shit, here we are 10 years later. I'm like, still practicing, still trying to get it to, in a sense, not get anywhere, but just understand it more, like honing this craft, like you just said, and just being, I love that you can compare it to an actual like athletic practice, something that you're really, I'm sure there's so many times that you felt exhausted, like your body hurt, all those things. And in that moment, because that can be very much compared to, I don't want to meditate right now. I'm tired. I'd rather watch TV, like whatever it might be. Like, what would you say in your head when you are like, I don't want to go to the field today? Like, what would you do to be like, it doesn't matter. I got to get there. Cause you did something, in your head, something was set.
It was a combination of creating goals, small goals and big goals. And the short goal was whatever was in front of me, that I hoped for. I remember when I went to college. So I just gotten a scholarship to Wake Forest University, and I just graduated high school. And most of my friends that were still going to play college soccer, they were seniors. We just graduated. Awesome. Let's go on vacation. Let's go to the beach for a couple of weeks and get out, celebrate with our families. And it was this feeling of, I want to honor the talent. It really was talent, but I want to honor this fire that's been ignited within me. Mm-hmm. This thing that's kept me going. I want to see it through to completion. And really at the time, being so driven, and that is why I'm going to do the extra and do the one more that most people don't do. When everyone goes left, I want to go right. And it's the road less traveled. And that's always inspired me to do the road less traveled. When people want to give up, I've always been inspired to continue, to push through it. And it's not all the time.
Of course.
But, as I look back, and even as I experience in the toughest time, it builds up resilience with that mindset. And I think with meditation, from there, it's evolved into guided meditations of prompts, of questions, of going back in time, context, going forward in time, things you desire, and sitting in the present. And so it's been really important to me to stay grounded in something, to have a practice that grounds me when life happens.
You bring up such a beautiful point that I don't think it's talked about a lot when you do start a meditation practice, the things that will just kind of fall away. And you also brought up another really great point that meditation finds you. You don't find it.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to this podcast, there's a reason you found it. You know what I mean? Because there's a really great yoga saying. It was with the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I always find that to be so true in every like little aspect of spiritualness.
Well, with that, a thing that I've been, and I say I've been inspired by, it's been like 72 hours, but is wellness and engaging in the wellness wheel. I recently did a presentation on the wellness wheel, and in the last week or so, we talked about the student is ready, the teacher will appear. There's just been this knock of meditation, yoga, and wellness this year. It's just been knocking at the door. And I said yes to present to some inner city kids in town in San Antonio on wellness. And I did the wellness wheel. And as soon as I said yes to that, more opportunities to get this podcast came up. More opportunities to engage in this thing I'm actually passionate about, that is inspiring my life, not just inspiring my life in real time. And in talking about the wellness wheel, the thing that spoke to me most was, your spirituality and really the practices that we engage in. And, when you think of spirituality, it's not just religions and stuff, but it's that deeper sense of self, connecting to the deeper sense of self within, the deeper consciousness, and being part of the collective unconscious. As you do that, doors start opening, people start appearing. And I mean, even being on this podcast, a year ago, I don't know if I would have been available to engage in this conversation. And here we are.
It's so true. When you start showing up, it's like the universe just randomly provides. It's so crazy just starting this podcast in general, and all the people, like, I would have never had this conversation with you, just not throwing myself out there and being vulnerable in that sense with like such a beautiful practice. Like, is anybody going to understand this? Are they going to get it? There's nothing for them to get or understand. It's just is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is this wellness wheel you're speaking about?
I thought you'd never ask. So I'm figuring it out myself. So the wellness wheel, there's different aspects to our lives. So when we think of, and a big thing, 2020 has been a lot of things, but it's also been the great equalizer, some have said. It's been, very COVID-y, as some people have said. And if anything, it's also been so disruptive of some of the avoidant behaviors that we've been able to fall back on, whether it's been work, sports, whatever that is. They no longer work for us because issues like mental health, social justice, we're actually talking about it. And it's okay to not be okay. It's the first time in history that's ever been said. And people are being vulnerable is actually being viewed as a strength for the first time ever across the board, I'd say. And so with the wellness wheel, it came about from doing the presentation I was talking about. And there's such a difference between mental health and wellness. You hear them interchanged and you hear them talked about in the same thing. And mental health is a state of being. It's your physical, it's your mental, your emotional, and I'd say even your social. It's that it's that state of arriving at, not only use a redundant term to describe a word, but it's arriving at a state of well-being. And wellness is the how. How do you get to the state of well-being? How do you get healthy? So wellness is the day-to-day practices that we do to get healthy. And the wellness wheel is something created by, I love history, but I'm not really big into regurgitating Wikipedia facts. But it was founded by some guy in Cincinnati who was a cool dude, and he was asking some of these questions that we're talking about, and he wanted to create something to measure well-being. And he came up with 6 aspects of life. And now it's evolved to 36, 8, 7. It's personal to you. And the most important thing about the wellness wheel is you are at the center of it. No one else but you. And it is what aspects of your life are, to the extent that you are filling up your cup in those aspects, you will be fulfilled. And the goal of wellness is a feeling and a state of fulfillment. It's not happiness. The greatest thing we can ever feel in this lifetime is fulfillment. That is why oftentimes people who are financially well sometimes are miserable, because all their other aspects of life are just so, they're not tending to. And when we travel abroad or we go into other socioeconomic communities, people that have the least are the happiest or feel most fulfilled. And so when you look at the wellness wheel, an exercise that typically happens is you create a circular chart of sorts, and you divide each sector. So let's say 7. And of those 7, it's emotional, physical. And when people think wellness, they often think physical. And because you think, well, I'm physically fit, so I'm well. But you're emotional, you're physical, you're financial, you're environmental, you're spiritual, and gosh, I'm trying to think of the other 2. But for sake, you're occupational and social. And I'm botching the occupational part for something else. But let's just say those are our 7. So when you think of physical, that's the easy one. That's your nutrition, your sleep, which is one of the most neglected things that we do on the day-to-day. Sleep makes everything so much better. And when we talk about wellness, or we talk about meditation, that fell under the spiritual, which was really interesting because it was connecting to something that's bigger than you, connecting to a deeper sense of purpose, a deeper sense of meaning. And the word practice came up. So it was really eye-opening. And when you do the exercise, you see from 1 to 10, how well are you filling your cup? How well are you tending to that aspect of wellness? And just like any wheel, a circular wheel always moves faster or functions better than a wheel that's lopsided. And most of our wellness wheels are lopsided, especially 2020. So it's recognizing where am I not giving to myself? Where's my cup low? And then tending to those deficient parts of our daily lives.
I want to jump up and down when you said fulfillment. And because in so many of my spiritual practices and what trainings, it's seek not happiness, seek contentment, seeking and I think the word contentment can be like, well, that's almost mediocre. That sounds a little like I'm just content, but the idea of it is fulfillment. Like you are content, you are fulfilled in a way of like, I have all my whole wheel is like totally not lopsided. It's all good. And then it's like, man, you're speaking to such a great point that meditation is one small aspect of this wheel, but other things have to line up too. And they will start to line up once you dive in and you say, yes, I will meditate. And all of a sudden these things start to disappear. Things start to open up and you're like, what just happened? All I did was start meditating. I'm just sitting every day. I don't understand. Where is this coming from? And then it's like, whoa, wow. And so many big athletes, so many people are on this roll now of like meditation, because they're starting to see the wheel start to line up and they're understanding like, oh, wow, it's all together.
Yeah. With meditation comes mindfulness. And sometimes with mindfulness comes meditation, but I really think with meditation, with diving into that practice, the fruit that you get is mindfulness. And change only starts with awareness. To the extent that you're aware, then you actually know oh wow, I can change something. If not, you'll keep going around the same hamster wheel. If you can be aware of the world without, but a mentor of mine a long time ago said, the most difficult journey that we will ever take in this lifetime is a journey within. not the journey without. And there's some days I'm like, man, you should never have told me that. And I'm kidding, but it's so incredible of the world of meditation, and I'm really excited to continue to dive into my practice. It's something that, when we talk about the wellness wheel, something that I am giving myself as homework to commit to practicing each day, is wanting to give myself 1 hour a day, give myself what the 6-year-old me would have wanted. And I've been writing about that. I've been meditating about that. It's been really eye-opening to see the untended parts of me as a kid, the untended part that evolved into the untended parts of me as a teenager, the parts that I neglected as a young adult, and the parts that I still wrestle with as a grown adult now, in the midst of so much transition. And we're constantly in the midst of transition, but this year more than any, it's been a knock at the door of, are you willing to say yes to, it's meditation or mindfulness, to things that you may have not been in the space to engage in before. There's an opportunity to evolve and to grow unlike any other.
Oh my gosh. And I feel like that is what is happening. It's meditation's knocking at the door right now, saying, hi, your world is collapsing. I'm here now. The world is different now. You have to wear a mask everywhere. People are dying. Like, okay. And in a sense, I so appreciate your background, because when I started this whole process, one of the things I did was I flew to Kenya and I did a yoga teacher training there. And I worked with people who actually grew up there. Like, they were getting their yoga teacher training in order to have a job. And as you know, with yoga and meditation, one of the things to get through is your own shit. Like, you have to get through yourself in order to help other people. Right. And so as I went there because I had recently gone through a divorce and I had experienced trauma as, my father's an alcoholic, that stuff, right? Which is pretty normal for Western society, right? Sure. I mean, I don't mean to criticize normal. I'm not. I'm just saying that's pretty common. We can hear that a lot. Whereas when I went there, my eyes were so opened to, well, I was a childhood soldier and I killed a bunch of people. And I saw my parents get slaughtered. My cousins were killed by a hippo, and I'm like, fuck, this is nothing, like my life is meaningless in a sense. Like, I don't mean to talk about like that in a way, but oh shit, Tyler, you went through a divorce. Okay, now what? Like, let's move on. Okay, you're a great human. Like, let's keep going. You're not a failure, right? Whereas that's some real, like, and I can sure that when you grew up where you grew up, like, your family's protecting you, all these things of like, we got to get you out of here. Like, we got to save you. You're so important. And just to hear that in a sense of like putting it in a bigger perspective, that's what meditation does. It's like, now you have compassion and empathy for people all over the world, and you're not just so in it for yourself.
Yeah, you nailed it. That being part of a bigger picture. The world is much bigger than San Antonio. The world is much bigger than the United States. Well, the United States is really big on the map. I've looked at it a bazillion times on travels, and I love that story about Kenya. I've had the chance, and we talked about this on the run. I think that's where this all kind of came up. But one thing I've learned is when you travel to remote parts of the world, you think you're oftentimes going to help someone there and give something to someone. And we oftentimes do, but there's a lesson, there's a reward, there's something that's waiting for us. We go there to help someone. And it's in return, someone actually helps us. They give us a life lesson. they make us aware and more mindful of something much bigger than ourselves. And I think, and this is, I actually want to write about this, but from all my travels, I'm amazed at how connected to the bigger picture a lot of people outside the United States tend to be. And there's just this wisdom and this mindfulness. And I wonder if it's from some of the ancient practices that they're more adept to engaging in as a culture and being connected to those ancient roots. But here in the States, we have so much. I mean, very thankful for Wi-Fi. It's the first thing I always check up. It's when you travel, that's the first sight of an American is we're the ones, well, where's the Wi-Fi? And yet I feel like there's an awakening that's happening here in our culture. And there's an awareness and there's just a mindfulness there's something that's happening. There's something that's on the move. The word awakening, whether it's mental health or especially with meditation, it's the need for more than just our identity and our jobs, our identity. If all those things are taken away, who am I? Like the 50 Cent song, if I didn't have this, would you still love me?
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful for your time. Where can we find you if we want to learn more about you and what you're up to in this wellness wheel?
Yes, you can find me on the ones and twos on social media, at Mike Lahoud on Instagram, at Mike Lahoud on Twitter, and I think at Mike Lahoud. I think it's Michael Lahoud on Facebook. But yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere at Mike Lahoud on social media. And you can also find me on air. I'm a soccer personality and on-air talent now. So you can watch me on TV for ESPN on various networks. So lots coming at you in 2021. So stay tuned.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Here are the takeaways with Michael. Number 1, soccer, sports, it never asks any questions. It's a give, get. If you perform, you get validated. Number 2, from an early age, he realized that he plays because he loves it, not because he wanted something from it. Number 3, practice is where you hone your craft or skill, and it's the most important thing you will ever do. It's what you do when no one is looking that sets you up for day-to-day longevity. Number 4, the key to success is consistency and showing up daily. Number 5, create small goals and big goals. Short goals for what's in front of you, big goals to honor this fire that has been ignited within you. Number 6, it sounds cliche, but so much wisdom is in taking the road less traveled. When everyone else is doing one thing, you go the other way. This builds up resilience to life, to do the thing, to take on the goals, to do what your mind and heart are set on. Number 7, meditation is a disruption to that go, 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 the I have to push, the next best thing. When your life and your mind are centered around that, it's never enough. Number 8, be grounded in something because life will come whether you're prepared for it or not. Number 9, are you looking to the external for your validation? 10, wellness is the day-to-day practice of doing things to get us there. 11, the greatest thing we can ever feel in this lifetime is fulfillment. 12, to the extent that you are aware, then you can actually change something. And the last one, the most difficult journey you will ever take is the one within. You can find Michael on Instagram at Mike Lahoud, that's Lahoud, on Twitter at Mike Lahoud, Facebook Michael Lahoud, and on-air soccer personality at ESPN.